And the focus of it is just getting to where God is. It says in verse 1, "How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord Almighty. My soul yearns, even faints, for the courts of the Lord." That the psalmist, when he was writing this, saying, I've got to get to where the presence of God is, such that his soul longed for that. And so it talks about that. Verse 3 says, "Even the sparrow has found a home, and the swallow a nest for herself." If you would have gone into the temple, I don't know if you've ever been in a big cathedral-like church where there are birds flying around in there. I know when I was in Costa Rica, and actually even in Paris, in Notre Dame, there are birds flying around inside those cathedrals. I mean, and the psalmist is saying about the temple, even the birds are smart enough to build a nest there so they can be close to God. I mean, that's what he's talking about here, that even the swallow, or the sparrow, has found a home there. And then he says in verse 4, "Blessed are those who dwell in your house. They are ever praising you." So it's not just a matter of getting there, but it's staying there and dwelling there that he's talking about. So then he says, "Blessed are those whose strength is in you, who have set their hearts on pilgrimage." In other words, in their hearts, there was this longing to get to the presence of God. And my thought about the summer is, everything, when you leave this environment, where you've had people around you that have been talking about Jesus and talking about walking with God, and you're going to leave this environment, many of you, and go back to a place where it'll be hard to find just a couple believers, you know, that will be encouraging you, that kind of thing. You must set your heart on pilgrimage. Now another translation says, "Blessed are those whose strength is in you, in whose hearts are the highways to Zion." In other words, if you were to examine their hearts, there would have been this path. Not literally, but in their hearts, their desire, there was a highway, and that highway was to the presence of God. Now, how do you make a highway? Back in those days, how did they make roads? Huh? Traveling the same road often. And first it would be a little footpath. You know, and next it would be, well, then you get other people, and they're going in that direction. And pretty soon it's a highway. And that's what he's saying, that those who are blessed, that find their strength in God, if you open up their hearts, there are highways to Zion. There are well-worn paths to the presence of God. And our hope this year, for some of you, is that you started that path. You started to make more of a direct, say, I'm going to pursue God, and I'm going to do that with a focus, or with a specific choice of the direction of your life. But in order for it to be a highway, it's got to be well-worn, back and forth, you know. And then it's like going and getting somebody else, say, come on, Josh, let's go, you know, let's walk this path with you. And then two of you are walking. You see what I'm talking about? Blessed are those whose strength is in you, in whose hearts are the highways to Zion. If somebody opens up your heart, what do they see? Is it that you've been making paths to the presence of God? That's what the psalmist is saying. Now listen to what he says. These kind of people, as they pass through the valley of Baca, they make it a place of springs. The autumn rains also cover it with pools. Now you say, what is the valley of Baca? If you read the little footnote, it says could be the valley of tears. Baca meant tears or suffering. In other words, for those people who have well-worn paths into the presence of God, they are going to go through valleys of Baca, valleys of times of hard times and tears. And I tell you, that's when you need that highway to Zion in your heart. When it will get hard. And this summer, there will be times when you're going to say, man, I wish I had the community around me that I once had. Or God's going to take some of you through real times of testing. And so the person who has their strength in God, they go through those times, and he says they take the valley of suffering, the valley of tears. Listen what it says. They make it a place of springs. That somehow, even in the midst of that trial and that, for them, it can become a spring. And then he says, and this isn't the end of the psalm, but the next phrase he says, these kind of people, they go from strength to strength till each appears before God in Zion. They go from strength to strength, not from strength and then crash and burn for a year or summer and then okay, I'm going to regroup and come back. But going from strength to strength. What if it would be that when we gather together in August, that we didn't share the defeats, we shared the victories. We said, listen what God did this summer. Listen to what He did to move me deeper into relationship with Him, going from strength to strength. And that's my prayer for all of us. Is that we would be on this pilgrimage, we would be doing it with each other, and that would be something. If you don't have somebody's email or 2 or 3 people's email that you can connect with, would you do that before you leave this week? Just that we would be still pursuing Jesus together and moving this summer from strength to strength. Well, I just wanted to fan the flame a little bit from Psalm 84. I can remember the guy that built into my life at Michigan State sharing that same psalm and saying, Dave, let's in our hearts make highways to Zion, well-worn paths for the presence of God.